Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Cubism, brought to you by the Mana Base. I'm Aaron.
I'm Drew.
And today we're going to be talking to you about the second half of our Hour of Devastation review. Part two.
The seconding.
The first half can hopefully be found somewhere between my face and his face in this general area. If it doesn't work, then, I don't know what I've done with my
description.
life. Well, it'll be there, but hopefully it isn't. Hopefully this works. So in the first half of the review, we talked about a lot of the bigger mythics in the sets. Nicobolus, the God Pharaoh himself, the other three. I don't even know what, I want to say sub-gods, but they're not really
Greater gods.
Greater gods?
Because they're better than the other gods, right? They're more buff.
But they're not indestructible. They just keep coming back.
Yeah.
So we talked about the gods, a couple other cards like Samet and Nimble Obstructionist. More of the flashy cards in the set. So if you want to check out those kind of cards, just check out the first video. The second part, we talk about more of the legs of the set. A lot of the
glue
that holds the set together, and some of the not so flashy cards, I guess is the way we can put it. And the first card we're going to talk about today is the first card spoiled. Actually, I think it was the first card spoiled.
But you didn't put in the first half.
I didn't put in the first half because it wasn't as flashy. It wasn't mythic. Didn't have that orange symbol.
People like red modal spells.
People like modal spells.
Yeah.
So the first card is a Braid. A Braid is our new take on a Shatter effect. So for Shatter mana, 1 in red, you get the option of destroying an artifact or dealing 3 damage to a creature. So I don't at 450 cards, I don't quite just play hard Shatter effects. I don't play the Smashes, Smithereens, or the Smelts, or the...
You play a Manic Vandal?
Or I don't even play Manic Vandal, for example. Though I think Manic Vandal is probably a comparison. I think in a world where I would play Manic Vandal, I'd probably like a Braid more, too.
Well, I play a Manic Vandal and a Smelt right now.
Right, so you have a Shatter dedicated spell and Smelt. What do you think about a Braid?
Well, I like it, but the only downside is I already run 3 Lightning Strike effects, Incinerate and Searing Spear, so I'm actually going to be removing one of those to make room for this, because too many similar cards, unless you're talking about Mana Elves, don't want all of them.
Yeah, you kind of want to hit a nice number of that, and I guess, through testing you'll figure out whether or not it's a little too much, too little.
So I like generally 2 answers per dedicated per color, disenchants, and like white or green, that kind of thing.
I do like a Braid. If you compare it to like Smashes, Smithereens is kind of a little more common one.
Oh, it feels more like a kind of card red decks will just jam, and for the damage effect, maybe they'll have an artifact, but you just want them to play an artifact to do 3 damage.
Yeah, absolutely. So a Braid is definitely my favorite of the like I said, the dedicated Shatter effects. I do like it much more than Smash Smithereens or Smelt or any of the other ones that people play. I even actually like it more than Manic Vandals now that we've kind of talked about it. But I'm not quite in that camp, thankfully, at 450 cards. And I don't obviously support a heavy artifact strategy. But Braid is my favorite one of the latter. I like them. I think it's the best option out there. It also has the Locust God kind of hanging on the background.
Yeah, he's not that good though.
Yeah, but he's a mythic, and he was in the first part. So Hour of Devastation, we didn't really talk about the mechanics too much in the first part because there wasn't really any new mechanics. I guess it's not necessarily true. Scarab God his bringing back ability is similar to the Eternalize mechanic that Adorn Pouncer does. I think that's the idea. Is whenever they bring back zombies, they are now 4/4.
Slightly more buff.
Yeah. So Adorn Pouncer is was our first taste at Eternalize. Eternalize is you get similar to Embalm. You get to buy back the creature later in the game as always as a 4/4 and always as a black zombie. But the trade-in is you get whatever previous abilities that creature had. And in Adorn Pouncer's case, Double Strike's a fairly powerful mechanic.
Like, as Wizard standard, if they make cheap Double Strikers, they're always kind of like too weak for their mana cost to make up for it. So this guy's like a 2 mana 1/1, so he hits for 2, which makes him kind of like a weak bear unless you got other strategies like a Bone Splitter or an Anthem to buff him. But his Eternalize might give you some value in that regard, though.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, in the early stages he trades very similarly to any bear. Obviously, one kind of a trick or equipment away from being quite the powerhouse. But I think the upfront body, like you mentioned, that Double Strike does have, the Double Strike body has, is very, very underwhelming. It being a 1/1 makes it very prone to a lot of things. The Eternalized part is pretty badass. It's very, very powerful. but I think the trade-off of having to run the unfortunate 2-mana 1/1 is a little too much for me.
It kind of makes him hard to fit in the deck because I think he's a bit too slow and unwieldy for aggro, and he's more like a mid-range kind of guy, I guess, that you throw out there to maybe trade, and then so you could actually use the Eternalize on like the aggro deck, who's probably losing if you hit 5 mana.
So the next card on our list, and I guess is the next mechanic that we hadn't talked about previously, is Afflict, and Amidst Eternal has Afflict 3. So Afflict is a pretty cool mechanic. I like you know what, I wanted to say the flavor, and I'm sure there's flavor reasons behind it, but I have no idea what it is.
Well, you judged the pre-release, right?
I did.
How did Afflict turn out?
It didn't really come up.
Nothing, really? People just I guess they wouldn't ask questions, right?
There was a couple people that had the red rare, that is, it's like, what's a 1/3 or 1/4, has Afflict 3, costs like 4-ish mana, and then if you hit a player, you get to cast I believe a non-creature spell from your hand for free. And I had to convince a lot of people not to play that card. The 4-mana 1/4 isn't good. The Afflict in the upside is also not good. Similar to Amid Eternal, I think initially people were impressed by the 3-mana 5/5 body. The Afflict is kind of I don't want to say an afterthought, excuse me, but it like a lot of black creatures in general that have very big power time to deal with the mana cost. There's normally some sort of glaring weakness. Wretched Anurid.
That's a good throwback.
Good onslaught throwback.
I ran 4 of those in an old format, 250.
The 250 was a fantastic format. So Amid Eternal, unfortunately, he gets smaller as your opponents cast spells. He doesn't have evasion. He has Afflict, I think, was the evasion mechanic kind of built into it. So it'll most likely just get double blocked by an opponent's creature. Opponent's creatures, getting in some damage. Maybe in a kind of a super dedicated strategy, this card can shine. But let's say Plague Belcher like before. I like Plague Belcher a lot in a similar slot, and I think you have to work equally as hard to make both of them good. But Plague Belcher is probably just a better card.
This one is a better creature type, though.
Zombie Crocodile Demon is very, very good. I didn't actually notice that creature type. I might have noticed it the first time we tried to record this.
Or the second
time. Or the second time, but
the third time.
We're fairly cursed. We've only had. This will only be our second episode in the new studio, but it feels like the 9th or 10th. So, to let you know, we're putting our trying real hard to at least get usable content. So, back to Amid Eternal. Again, I'm not very impressed. I'd like his creature type a whole lot, but not enough to try it out.
Every time we see one of these cards, they cost 3. They have good base stats. I don't know, man. They're hard to make good, and then they rarely are.
Yeah, I find once you have to a card needing let's say for example the Adorned Pouncer needing a card to kind of the card goes from not super good your one effect away, like I said, from it being quite impressive. Amid Eternal is a couple things you need to kind of get going for it, and like I said, a little too hard to work for. So, Angel of Condemnation.
Condemnation.
Sure. Is it a card that I guess unlike it the Amid Eternal, this card has a lot of work for you. It has a lot of text, a lot of effects. So I think a lot of people were talking about it. So it's in the white 4-drop section. That's kind of hard to break into.
Almost all of them cost 2 white.
Yeah, that's pretty standard with white 4-drops or white cards in general. Is the double costing effect. So Angel of Condemnation looks like it does a whole lot. It's able to blink your creatures. It's able to blink your creatures.
Exile
creatures.
It's got vigilance. Flies. I could read it off the text box. It's probably up here right now.
Yeah. This card does a whole lot. It's very, very slow. The cool thing, I guess, is that because it has vigilance, you're able to attack and then keep up tricks later. I'm not very impressed. It has the problem with what's her name? Gisela, the Broken Blade. No, Gisela, the new one. Is that one the Broken Blade?
It's definitely a Gisela, and it's a 4/3, and it's got first strike, which means it can block.
I think it's Broken Blade because she's sad. So yeah, that one. The 4-mana 4/3, first strike lifelink. Gisela is similar to Angel of Condemnation, has the unfortunate 3 toughness, but it also doesn't hit as hard. And I think the upside of it may be interacting with a couple of your creatures.
Yeah, but this one can't block when you cast it.
That's very true. Without kind of similar to Amid Eternal, without kind of at least if you're playing at least the blue-white blink deck, that kind of strategy, I probably wouldn't look too much at this card. even in that, very, very deep, if you're deep into that strategy, maybe it's worth trying out, but initially I'm not that impressed.
Yeah, not really too big of a fan. It looks like it's got a lot going on. I think it's going to be very slow.
Mm-hmm.
And if your format is slower, give it a shot.
Mm-hmm. So, next on our list is the not very impressive but Burning Fist Minotaur. In a world, I don't know how many. I think we're at years now. A year or two. Back when Red's 2-drops were worse, the 3-drops were worse. We're fortunate enough now to have, at least thankfully, a handful more options. And with Aether Chaser from Aether Revolt, I felt I was finally at a healthier number.
I think you like that card a little too much, though.
So I'm very biased. But after Aether Chaser came out, I was very happy with my red 2-drops, at least at the size I'm at. So Burning Fist Minotaur, if this card was printed 2 years ago, I'd be super excited about it. But nowadays, the quality is a little better. And what do you think of this card?
Well, generally, now in the world of the new age 2-drops, I would rather have the ability to not have to discard a card or work too hard to make its effect known to the battlefield. And discarding a card is not exactly something I'm thrilled about. I guess I would do it if it were to push damage. Mm-hmm. But it's not cheap, and discarding's not free. So I think I like other options better than we currently have, even though these options are nice if you're pushing certain types of strategies.
Absolutely.
Like Reanimator or Madness.
I know, especially after the Innistrad block came back, people started kind of shooing in that kind of strategy again, because it was definitely the flavor of the 3 months. But Burning Fist Minotaur, again, it would have been a little more welcome a couple years ago, but now I'm actually very happy with Aether Chaser, and they kind of attack similarly. Aether Chaser, they both have the 1 in a red, 2/1 first strike. The trade-off is Aether Chaser using the energy and a 1/1, and Burning Fist Minotaur is a better card late game, but they both attack. The same for the first couple turns, but Aether Chaser is hopefully able to make the 1/1 to help without any other mana commitment or cards or anything else. So I do like that card more. What do you think this card? How much different this card be if it was 2 in a red plus 2 so?
2 in a red.
I still think it's off, unfortunately, but
needs better art.
That's fair. So the next uncommon on our list is the most anticipated uncommon of the set for a lot of reasons, and that's Claim to Fame.
I thought that was the first card.
The first?
The Shatter.
No, man, this one's way cooler.
No?
Claim to Fame, way sweeter.
So the templating is really bad.
Aftermath templating is very bad. Thankfully, most of them have been not good, so I haven't had to add them to my cube yet. I know you played Never Return, I believe, is the only one from Mana Cat.
The Hero's Downfall one, the sorcery.
Yeah. So Claim to Fame is some old favorites of mine, and I'm sure yours, a la Unearth and Reckless Charge, kind of taped together into 2 cards. So I do like Claim to Fame quite a bit. It is definitely it's a very, very good Rakdos card. And in the past we've talked about how we want our multicolor slots to reflect best of what those colors do, and Claim to Fame does that very well. Unfortunately, Rakdos is kind of in this weird spot. I said, so they have the removal spells, stuff like Rakdos Cackler, and then they have, the very powerhouse spells that say, all like Holigan's Command, Rakdos Return, and then creatures like Falkenrath Aristocrat, Olivia Voldaren, Olivia Mobilized by War. So a lot of the cards that they're printing very slowly are turning into these kind of Jund-ish kind of cards that don't reflect very well the red-black aggro deck, but they still give you some sort of other options. So Claim to Fame, it would feel like, having the option to play something like Olivia or Rakdos Return. It feels weird cutting those kind of cards for this, but like I said, it represents it best.
The thing is, you want stuff to die, right? Mm-hmm. To play this, and if everything is going well, say you mulligan to 5. Mm-hmm. How bad is this card in your opening hand? It's really bad. This card, obviously in that situation it's very bad. It's definitely more of a comeback mechanic for the set or for that deck. But I do like it a lot. It kind of makes you want to trade a little more aggressively, maybe. I think this card will require a lot of testing, maybe not a lot of testing, but kind of a couple weeks just kind of to prove its worth.
to be able to, like just cut one of these other crazy mythics apart.
For some reason, I think I kind of like this in the Reanimator Light package, where you just have like pack rats and some other discard outlets in there that you can get back with claim, or you could discard it to Reckless Charge or Fame some randomly large guy.
So if you have an Una's Prowler, something early on, you can discard it and then use it as part of your Reanimator package, and you bring back a Grizzlebrand, bring back a Mere Battleship, bring back something to all of a sudden Fame and give it haste out of the graveyard is another way to utilize the card, which I like quite a bit. So, like I said, I'm very excited for this one. It's the first Aftermath card I'm going to be putting in my cube.
I'm going to be putting in Battle Box.
But it's definitely one of the cards I'm more excited about. So the next card on the list is, well, I guess fairly talked about. I know people talked about a lot on the subreddit, and that's Countervailing Wins. So it's the new, what was the madness card? Circular Logic. That was not can't cast for one.
Yeah.
So I like the card a lot. Initially, I was very impressed. I'm happy that Wizards keeps kind of pushing this design space. There is a similar card, a little bit of spoiler alert, later on that we'll be talking about. That's actually, I'm kind of surprised they put it in the same set. But this card's cool. I like it out of cycling. It kind of gives you something, obviously an option to do with it. But I think this card it just suffers from being more of a design for a constructed card.
Yeah.
So obviously the shortcomings of this card is it'll turn 3. You probably can't really even maybe spike something.
That might be your first play if your deck has a bad roll. You go Mana Rock into this, and it does nothing.
So yeah, very like I said, it's as turn 3. It's not really the hard counter you want. It does have a very attractive mana cost, which is kind of hard to turn down. But this card is very it's a hard game or late game hard counter spell, and in early game you'll more often than not be cycling it to kind of keep the train going. I'm not saying that's necessarily bad. There are cards you compare it to, like Circular Logic, though Circular Logic isn't really in the conversation. Logic Knot is a good one, or
I like Logic Knot a lot.
Complicate is another card, but Logic Knot's fair. I do like Logic Knot as a comparison because they counter very similarly, with the exception that Logic Knot costs double blue, right?
But you can cast it for 2.
You can cast it for. I guess you can hard counter something for 2. So it does counter very, very similarly. They equal to cards in your graveyard. You can actually control how many cards you want it to be. You can just be a spike turn 2 if you need to delve them away for something else later on. Mm-hmm. So again, I do like the idea. I do like the design space that Wizards is working with, but I think this card's just a little underwhelming, unfortunately.
Yeah, I like the options, but I don't think it makes it to my suite that I currently run.
So the next card on our Eternalized list is Earthshaker Kenra. The Jackal Warrior.
You've said Kenra a lot over these recordings,
and I
always have really unsure about it.
I always would look at it to make sure that I'm not messing it up. So Earthshaker Kenra, again, back in the world where Red 2 drops are a little weaker, I would be very, very happy to see. But like we said, in the more modern age of Magic, the last 2 years, I still think this card competes, but I'm gonna be honest with you. The Eternalized for 6 mana is ridiculous.
You're never gonna hit that.
Ridiculous. If you're at 6 mana and in this red deck, in this aggressive red deck especially,
you better be hard casting some Fire or Sacrifice Mountains.
Yeah, some Fire Blast.
Fire Blast. Yeah.
Yeah, this card. You know what? I want to like it. I want to pretend to like it. 6 mana is too much mana.
So you're only gonna be, in theory, casting it for the first half, and if that's all it was, is this good enough for you?
No. Without Eternalized, the card's not playable.
The card
like
isn't good
enough
now, right?
Yeah, but with the bottom half, I'm unfortunately still not sold. 6 mana. You know what?
Jackal
if
Warrior.
this was 5, I'd be in to try it out. 6 at 4. Who am I kidding? It wouldn't have cost 4. But
it'd be great if it cost 4.
It'd be very, very good if it cost 4. But at 6, unfortunately, it's gonna sit on the sidelines.
You're gonna play your Jackal Warrior tribal deck.
Yeah, I wish there was more playable Jackal cards from the Amonkhet block. I like the Jackal.
Jackalops?
No, I want Jackalops.
It's on theme. It's got Jackal
in my face. So next card on the list is probably my favorite card, very quietly becoming my favorite card in this set, and that's Hour of Devastation, the namesake?
There's been a few cards that's been named after the set.
Yeah, this one, it's the Hour of Devastation. It's Nicol Bolas. He's coming. How'd your kids? So, Hour of Devastation is... The reason why I like it so much is it's the first like red Wrath variant that doesn't feel like Anger the Gods or Sweltering Suns or something
Oddly
similar.
restricted, like
Yeah.
Pyroclasm.
So this card it costs a hard 5 mana. Deals 5 to everything, so it's going to kill a lot of things. Yeah, he also kills Planeswalkers, which is something that red isn't typically very good at. And this card is more of like an is-it card than it is anything else. It's a very good representation of what blue-red wants to do. It's something that blue-red is very, very bad at.
It has problems dealing with their Mother Worms.
It has problems dealing with a lot of like resolved bigger creatures. It's not super good at dealing with Planeswalkers either because it doesn't pressure them and it's hard to remove off the board. So Hour of Devastation, other than taking down your Planeswalkers with it, which Nicol Bolas is trying to do anyway, it's the type of card that I've been really excited for those kind of decks. Because like you're not the instant decks aren't jamming just Wildfire in their decks, but it's always something like, yeah, you know what, I kind of wish I had this option.
I don't think the tools are there for a more control-y red package yet, but
It's
they
slowly
keep
getting
releasing them. Like the 6-mana Chandra, it's very good.
That was a very good step in the right direction.
This card, and I'm probably forgetting a couple like Goblin Dwellers.
Goblin Dark Dwellers, even like P and Kieran, those kind of creatures, those decks seem to like a lot. So I do like Hour of Devastation a bit. I'm obviously very excited to try it out. I'm very excited like I said, for this to develop this red control package instead of this always just being these idiots that bash their heads in their opponents. I do like tokens too. I've been very high on it. Obviously, I've obviously been talking about Earthshaker for some amount of time. So Hour of Devastation gets a thumbs up for me. I'm not sure about the other ones. How do you feel about Hour of Devastation?
Not yet.
Not there yet?
Not there yet. And I think I have, it's hit my sweepers right now. I got, a Rolling Earthquake, and I've got Pyroclasm, and I'm missing, I guess the 6-mana Chandra does it as well. And I'm probably missing one more, and I have Wildfire. And this is one too many for me, so I'd have to cut something. I could cut Wildfire, because it's not good in my list. But we'll see.
So the next hour is Hour of Revelation, another card that was talked about quite a bit on the subreddit. It's 3 white mana.
It's like planar cleansing.
It is planar cleansing. It is planar cleansing with the hopefully upside of it getting a discount for having 10 permanents in play, non-land permanents in play.
10's a lot.
10's a lot, and they're going to be some of yours.
Yeah, it's like Oblivion Rings.
Like Oblivion Rings.
You can Oblivion Ring your own things.
Can't play, is it Banishing Light? That
you could use the new Angel and slowly save your guys over a course of 2 turns per guy.
So in the world where, I obviously don't consider planar cleansing to be good enough, does being harder to cast with this potential upside make it worth it?
No, definitely not.
I don't think so either. I think 10 permanents is a lot to ask for.
I don't even like the 6-mana or 5-mana ones.
The Fumigate and stuff like that.
I think Fumigate's close.
Fumigate's,
but I ran 2
for all of
4-mana
those
ones,
wraths.
right?
That's definitely where you want to be. I think Hour of Revelation, while looking like it has a lot of potential, I think is definitely a little bit of a miss, unfortunately.
I like the art.
It's one of my favorite arts in the set, actually. I think if it cost double white instead of triple white, I'd be a little more game. Maybe if it was double white 4, same stipulation.
They wouldn't
But
print
it
that
costs
for
4
standard.
less. I probably wouldn't. If it was double white and could wrath everything, I think that upside it's obviously better. But the idea of locking down 3 white for this effect it's a lot. I think the discount you'll save on it, turn 1,000,000, won't be that big a deal. So
yeah, by the time there's 10 on the board, you can afford 6.
yeah. So the next card on our list is it's a fun card. It's Mirage Mirror.
Yeah, you really have to sell me on fun cards.
I don't have to sell you. This isn't necessarily on the list because I'm necessarily a fan of it either. This is more on the list because in the combo centric, a la powered environments, this card can do a lot more busted things. It can copy power mana early. You can copy something like Guild Lotus, something like Memory Jar, other powerful effects. There's a ton of them out there, and when you're playing more the powered package or the big artifact package, there's a lot more options, which I don't have a lot of experience with. Admittedly, I know you don't either. I think maybe I think this is definitely something that the MTGO Vintage Cube will try out. I know there's a handful of people
though, whether it's good or not.
I know there's a lot of people I follow on Twitter and stuff like that that are fairly excited about it. So
well, it's not your permanent, right?
Yeah.
So you could have it and copy their random large
guy.
You
can copy was whatever the best option is in play. So maybe that potential threat makes it worth it on its own. This card definitely I think will have to play it a few rounds to kind of get a full feel of what the card actually does. It's definitely hard to evaluate just up front. It looks like another Jackal Karen new guy, though.
No, it's got horns. He's clearly a Minotaur.
You are correct. He is turning into a eternalized zombie, though, on the other side. That is correct, at least. And this Bolus Horns of Mirror.
It's a Mirage. Look at the name. It's not actually doing it.
Next card is...
a bad card. You can move on. Don't like it.
The Cubism stamp of bias. Ramu Map Excavator is the...
They really
from what
need
I've
to work on
heard,
the name a little more.
I always thought it was Ranu Map, but it's the opposite. It's Ramu Nap. Is apparently been on a lot of people's wish lists, like on MTG Salvation.
I could see that. It was probably like a you make the card submission at one point by multiple people.
On MTG Salvation, they talked about how they wanted the walking the megs of the worlds for some time now, and here we go. We finally got it. It's easy to cast. It's a 2/3.
Can't attack. Can't block.
It doesn't do either of those effects very well. It has I actually like the art quite a bit.
If it was a 2/4, I'd be way more in.
Yeah.
Like Courser Crew Fix stats.
So
that thing attacks and blocks.
If you haven't noticed yet, I don't neither. I'm not a fan of Crucible Worlds. You're not a fan.
Apparently,
of
I'm known for it.
Apparently, you're known for it. Again, there is a world where you can make that card work for you. Again, in the a la Vintage, where you're playing Fast Spawn,
Seismic Assault.
But that card is definitely a lot more narrower than you or myself like the play. There's obviously the stories of getting with Wasteland or Strip Mine and this very slowly locking your opponent out. But I think it's a little too corner case, and it's too hard to make work for you. Where most often being a dud. So does it being attached to legs make it more valuable?
Well, it can kill somebody now.
It can. It couldn't before. I guess it could with a Strip Mine before, but if you're going to play this as your dedicated Crucible Worlds and Cube, it's obviously better just to play Crucible, considering this is way easier to remove.
Well, you're doing this to supplement that deck,
Do you really need a second Crucible Worlds for that deck?
Probably. If you're really in for it.
Yeah. So, admittedly, obviously we're very biased. I'm not a fan. I do like the card. I'm actually super excited this card exists for stuff like Commander, but I'm not sold for Cube.
So I got to keep my art comments up. Is he wearing like a tunic or something?
Yeah, he's like Ronus. I guess Ronus has like a man body. They look at the gods like really close. They have like their he's like a snake.
Stargate
but
SG1 face, which is really nice. Yeah. And then the actual
regular.
arms.
It's like there's the art for I can't remember the name.
It's the god.
Hopefully I'll put it on the screen here. It's the picture of Kefnet lying dead, and like the more you look at it, the sadder it gets. And then you read the flavor text, and it gets even sadder. He's mega dead, has a hole in his head, blood everywhere. Everyone's sad.
They did the flavor really well in the set. Like they can tell Nicol Bolas is like running amok.
He's just fucking stuff. It's everything's going down. So, but what we're talking. Okay, back to snake people. This Naga cleric, it looks like he has a Naga cleric body, so he's probably wearing a tunic of some sort. But, alright, let's get on to the next card on the list. So next card is the next Kenra.
Of the resilient variety?
The resilient variety, the Jackal Wizard himself. So, what? Look at it, like, when do you play this card?
Oh, I guess, like, for some reason, the closest comparison is that guy from Invasion, like Cavu something.
Cavu Titan?
Probably. And he's got, like, kicker.
Yeah, he's 1 in a green, 2/2, kicker, 2 in a green. He's a 5/5?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you kind of just, like, jam him whenever, because that's what you do, and if you save him, then you don't have a 2-drop, so that'd be stupid. So you probably just jam this guy anyways on 2, no matter how bad it is.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're kind of just playing Grizzly Bear. Like, maybe you buff a Birds of Paradise or something. Like obviously you want a 1-drop that you can actually buff, like a Jungle Lion or have any of the other ones.
Jungle Lions is a good throwback to the green aggro days. So no, in the world where you're still playing the Jungle Lions, the Kurt Apes, and that kind of stuff. But if you still have the green aggressive package, the Resilient Kenra seems to fit well into that. But outside of it, it kind of it's weird. It doesn't quite have a home. For 6 mana, you get this 4/4 that
you could actually hit 6 mana on the green deck.
You can, unlike the unfortunate red one. I'm just not quite sure exactly. Again, I guess I just obviously don't play the aggressive green cards. You don't, so I think...
I prefer to push the ramp like I feel most people probably do.
Without the kind of the aggressive strategy, I think that the Resilient Kenra is just a little too... It doesn't really do anything.
Be underwhelming, probably.
That's fair. So the last card on the list is, again, one of a pretty talked about card. I think it's because of the artwork. The artwork's very good.
So, like, Das's Bident or something?
Wow, it's Nicol Bolas's
Bident?
horn thing. It could be a Bident, I guess. So it's Supreme Will. So Supreme Will, very similar to the Countervailing Wins, I'm going to call it. It was not that long ago, but I feel...
That's probably the right name, but...
Is the second 3-mana counterspell that they printed in the set, which, again, I thought was weird that they printed two of them. I guess one's a common, one's uncommon. But two of them, they're both counterspells, they both cost 3 in the same set. So this one gives you a different option. It gives you the Mana Leak option or Impulse. That doesn't have the errata of shuffling a library afterwards, which makes it strictly worse on its own. So Supreme Will, I like it. I'm gonna say right away, I like it way more than Countervailing Wins.
How about Complicate? I currently run Complicate, and I think I like Complicate more.
I think I like Complicate. So Supreme Will and Complicate on face value, they both counter for the same way, 3 mana, Mana Leak. But the upside to Complicate is you can cycle it and maybe force spike a spell, which is what dreams are made of. Or you just get to play the hard impulse that comes with Supreme Will. So I think just, Complicate versus Supreme Will. I do like Supreme Will more. I am much more in the Supreme Will camp. I don't like it if I already have too many blue cantrip effects. If you go really deep on Ponder, Preordained Brainstorms, Serum Visions, Impulse, Demir Impulse from Gate Crash,
Limbo
from Forbidden Alchemy. Limbo's, like, too many of those effects. I do like the Impulse effects. They do help the more combo-oriented decks. But, I don't know, having too many of them is probably a problem. But, just Complicate v Supreme Will. I do like Supreme Will more.
I like Complicate more. The cycle and gotcha.
The gotcha that cycling Complicate has, there's very few things I can compare. But,
and Impulse, you're gonna say 2 of those are lands. I'm not sure what you're impulsing for on turn 3 anyways, because
sometimes
the game's not that late.
A lot of the times in the blue decks, you just want to find lands. You just want to be able to keep hitting those. I think the versatility this card has, it's fine. It's good early. It's good late. It gives you options. Complicates. Obviously, staggers worse in the end game. So I think because of those reasons, I like Supreme more. That and the artwork. I don't know in the art of Complicate. She's sticking her butt at this spiky ball thing.
Yeah, this thing's holding blueberries though.
Yeah, with the bolus Bident, I'm pretty fan. You want to get this big ball of spikes in your butt? If that's what you're into, it's fine, Drew. I understand. We've been friends for a long time. I get it. But I'll take Supreme Will.
This is where I fervently deny that on video.
Well, that's fine. It's 2017, man.
Lots of diversity. Big on diversity.
Yeah, absolutely. We just actually finished watching the new Spider-Man movie. Big on diversity.
Might be the best Spider-Man?
It probably is the best Spider-Man.
I need to watch it.
I don't really have a good reason to say it isn't. But anyway, so that's it. I guess that's all the Hour of Devastation cards we're talking about.
We're recording the Spider-Man review episode.
Yeah, right after this, we have the Spider-Man review coming out. You can find that not on the Mana base. It's not Magic the Gathering related, and we're not going to make it. So, I guess that's it. Thanks for checking in with us or staying tuned or tuning in. Tuning in is the word I was looking for. Checking in was incorrect. Thanks for tuning in. Again, I'd like to thank the Mana Base for helping us out and giving us a place to create this content, and this, including the studio that
is farther than my living room.
Is significantly farther than your living room, but hopefully will be a permanent fixture. There's a little bit more set up this time around, but hopefully a permanent fixture going on forward. And hopefully I won't delete any of the videos again and have to record again, because that wasn't good. We're trying to get this out for the pre-release, but instead, you are now watching it on the set release. If you watch it the same day. So again, thanks for checking us out. So, I guess with all that said, I'm Aaron.
I'm Drew.
And enjoy your Hour of Devastation release.